Hello, hello, Aliza.
Hi, Natalie.
How are you?
Thank God. So nice to be with you here.
I know, it's nice. And you know what? We were discussing before the interview, and I was like, almost like, let's forget the podcast. Let's just have a conversation, you and me, because you have so many interesting things to share. So I'm very excited about this interview.
I am too. I mean, we've been working together for a while now, and it's really nice to do that, you know. That
I know. And we've been working together for a while, and there are still things that I'm discovering about you. So I'm sure that a lot of people are going to discover this about you as well. But before we go to the fun fact or the interesting experiences that you've had, I still want to share your bio with everyone. So everyone knows who you are and what you do. And then we'll dive in the questions. I have so many questions for you. So, Aliza is a creative thinker and a perfectionist who loves to help small business owners run an efficient business. She has worked for over 10 years in the corporate world in project management, business management, and process and organization across different industries before starting her own entrepreneurship journey. Aliza created Smart Biz Ops in 2020, and since then, she has helped dozens of small business owners run their business in a more efficient manner. She has a master in finance and a bachelor in business management from the Sorbonne in France and has a burning passion for learning new topics. So that is Aliza. I know that you have a name already, you have a reputation, everyone knows you at least on Facebook, in the circles, in the Israeli, Anglo speaking, even French, because you and I are both from France, so we also speak French together. And everyone knows you as the system expert. I've called you the systems queen because that's what you are. Everyone knows, I can see now how people are recommending you every time there's a question on systems. It's like, yeah, Aliza is the expert, Aliza is the expert. But what I want to do today in the interview, beyond what everyone knows, is discover what no one knows about Aliza. That's the fun part, right? We started talking about it, and I said, let's just talk about it live in the interview because it's so much fun. So before we go into the fun facts, can you tell us how did you become a systems expert? Because you have this experience in corporate, 10 years. You also lived through different countries. You're going to tell us about that. But can you tell us the process? How did you move from being a corporate 9 to 5, having a job, working in a company, to deciding to have your own business as a systems expert? Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, I think that you're going to be surprised also about the story.
Okay.
I was a reluctant entrepreneur. That was not my first idea. When I moved to Israel, I still had, and for many years, I had the idea that I was going to find a job in the
Okay.
corporate world as I had abroad. And it just didn't happen. I really looked for a job for a very long time. Thank God, we also started a family, small kids, very hard to find a job between kids. And then my husband, who's really an entrepreneur, told me, right, so there's no choice. I mean, you can't find a job, you do have skills, build your own job. I was
Wow.
like, oh, okay, why not? So I was still in the middle, between then that and then. So that's how I started freelancing. Really, not on a scale basis, trying to just find one client as a online business manager. And then Corona hit, and I was thinking, one client is not enough. I really need to have a diversified, options, different clients, getting out there a little bit more. And that's really how I started Smart Biz Ops. But it
Wow.
was, it didn't came from the traditional, okay, I want to build my business and I have these amazing skills. It was a little bit, I needed a little bit pushing.
Oh, interesting. So that's really interesting because it's true. Everyone is like, I want to have a business. It's my dream to have a business. And you're coming from a different perspective. You're coming from, I have the skills, I can help people. let's see if I can help one or two or three, and then at the end you have a real business. So it's really, really interesting. But can you tell us more about what you were doing in your corporate experience? Like you have a large experience in corporate. So where do you come from? What's your background in terms of professional experience?
I'm a finance person. I worked in investment banking all these years before I made Aliyah, before I came to Israel. I work on a trading floor. I was the only woman for a very, very long time. So much so that I was leading my own team on the trading floor. And every time someone was coming and visit, they were coming to me and say, I need you to book an hotel. I was like, I'm not the secretary here. I'm maybe the only woman here who's not a secretary, but that was that. So I was really in the investment banking for a very long time on the trading floor. And then I moved a little bit more towards management roles and business management, process and organization. And that was when I left really the corporate world was after doing process and organization. And I was like, I had so much fun doing that. I was like, that's really my thing. I really enjoy building, how systems should look like and how people should work to be efficient. And so when I started in Israel, I had one, two, three jobs in project management and organization. And then really that's where I started the whole story of looking for another job and then couldn't find it. And like we got back to the question from before.
Right. And you said that you made Aliyah, you came to Israel 13 years ago, right? That's 10 years ago.
10 years ago.
Sorry, you came to Israel 10 years ago. And before that, where did you live?
Before that, I was in London. I made Aliyah from London.
Right.
And
so,
before London,
we said that you told me that you went through 5 countries, right?
I lived in 5 countries.
How many countries did you live in then?
5.
Yeah, no, but which ones?
Which one? So in order, like the not chronological one, I am now in Israel. Before I was in London, in England for a year. Before that, I was in New York for 6 years. And before that, I was in Canada for a year when I finished my study. And before that, I'm from France. So I was in Paris, suburbs of Paris.
Wow. Very, very interesting. So you're like someone who's very curious. You like to discover new countries, new topics. So when you were on the trading floor, was that in New York?
Yeah. Actually, I was in France and in New York.
Wow. The New York Stock Exchange.
No, I was actually in the bank. They had the trading floor in the bank.
I see.
Close plan. If you remember the story, we had to see all of Lehman's crisis. Their offices were very close to ours. It was a very, very interesting period.
Wow, that is so interesting. I can just picture you on the floor with the phones and the screaming and the like being so, yeah, that's you? Okay. That's so interesting. So we think now that we've discovered a lot of Aliza's professional background and experience, but I have news for you guys. This is not the only things that you're going to discover on Aliza today in this interview, because beyond, being a professional financial, expert and project management and systems and organizations, there are other things that I personally could not have imagined that you're doing, but apparently you are doing. So can you tell us, you gave me a few examples, but can you tell us what other things you've been, working in or interested in? Some of them you're still doing today, some of them you did in the past. The one that you're still doing today is the craniosacral therapy. So you're a therapist. Yeah. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah.
Because I'm just fascinating to hear your many facets here.
Yeah, I'm actually very active in that. I have a clinic next to my home where I treat patients. I treat only women. I now just restricted to people who come because they are in pain. I'm not doing some sort of, just feel good type of treatment because I don't have the time. But I am an active craniosacral therapist. I learned that about 5 years ago now.
Can you
The story
explain
started, I
what
sent my husband.
okay.
What it is?
Yeah, because I don't know what it is. So I don't know if other people know, but I don't know what it is.
You don't know what. So it's a version form of therapy that helps alleviate pain and release tensions and making balance really within the body. And the story is that I my husband learning it. He was looking for something new to add, and I was in so much pain. I knew cranial from a long time ago, and I had very, a lot of back issues, and I sent him to learn that so he could help me. And he was always coming back from the study with, oh, I learned that, and I learned about the wave from the brain. I was like, what? And I was so curious, and I was so surprised that everything was saying, like, okay, I need to try this. I need to learn and see if what he's saying is true, if you can really feel all these things from someone's body. And I was surprised. I was really came, ready to say that's, BS, you call this type of things. And no, I mean, I really feel it, and it helps.
Wow.
It's like any type of treatment. Some people are not going to be receptive. Some people are going to be extremely receptive. You need to try, but it's been, yes, 5 years now that I've been doing that on the side.
Wow. So on the side, right? So you have your main business. So again, today, this is the Jewish Women Entrepreneurs podcast, right? So we're talking about the entrepreneurship aspect of your life. And first you said, I wasn't sure I was going to be a business owner. I wasn't sure I was going into business, and I decided to go, after 1 or 2 or 3 clients. So that's already very interesting for people that think that they need to be born entrepreneurs or have that dream. Sometimes it could happen from different ways, or from opportunities, or from just wanting one client after the other, and then you become an entrepreneur. And now we discover that not only do you have your own business as a system expert, but you also have another business that's, where you help people from something totally different. So my question is, how do you manage your time, your priority, your clients? I mean, I also know that you have 5 kids, which is in a very small age. So I'm sure you have a lot of things to do on the home front. So how do you manage all that? That's my question. Like, how do you manage your clients for a systems expert, your clients for, this clinic that you have, your kids? Like, how do you do it?
Well, the only thing is I'm extremely dedicated to my calendar, right? So I have everything blocked. I have blocked off hours for patients, unless someone calls me because they've been in extreme pain. I have times dedicated for that particular activity during the week, and otherwise everything that is for the system business. And I would say I manage everything. Like, my home is not, it's not a museum. It needs a lot of work that I don't do. I have places where I am perfectionist, and I have places where I know doing what I can do is the best. It doesn't, it's usually, it comes out in the house. It might not be as sparkling as I would like, but it's the best I can do. So I have, I'm trying to be nice with myself a little bit.
Right.
To make it work.
So obviously, the answer that you're giving is, obviously you have a system, because the calendar and the blocks of time and following the blocks of time, that's a system. So obviously, I understand that you have a system, and you also have self-compassion for yourself. You're like, not everything is going to be perfect. Not everything is going to be, exactly as I wanted. And that's how you're managing to have a few activities. Now, do you have a question? I also very often speak about the born to do, like, our mission, our purpose. Like, do you sometimes want to choose between the two? Do you sometimes have to focus more on one or the other? Or do you feel like maybe you want to do you feel like you know which one is more you're born to do, or is it okay for you to have two different activities that are not connected and you're fine with that, and there's no question about it? Is it how do you live that? Because I know that a lot of entrepreneurs, either they come to me or I hear them speak and they say, I have a few passions and I don't know how to combine all those passions. I don't know how to make it more holistic, or have something that makes more sense. Some people, they can have different passions, and some people, they need to find more alignment in everything that they do. So where are you on the spectrum of having different passions?
Well, I think you need to look at your passions like as if you are in mathematics, right? You're gonna have weights at both ends, and then you have balance. Or you can try to be in the middle and combine your passions, and you'll still have balance. Right now, what I have is really I'm two extremes, and that's my balance, right? I have from one and from the other, and I do appreciate it. I have for a very long time the idea of combining them and really working more with entrepreneurs who are introverts, because one of my other skills is I'm a life coach. I'm a certified life coach, and that's where I would like to have sometime to help introverts who are an entrepreneur, because that's a very tough world for people to be there in that place. And because I am, I know what it is to get there and be heard as a business owner when it's really not nature. But this is still, it's still a work in progress. I think this is the type of combination that has, it takes time, and it's going to come on its own. It's not really something I feel like, I should force, I should push. It's something I feel when the time is right and I have the right offer, that's going to come naturally.
Okay, so you're saying that right now you're investing in both of your passions, you're investing time, efforts, and energy, and you know that at some point there's something that is going to organically bring those two passions together and create some kind of offer, but you don't have I don't hear any stress or any anxiety around this. It's like whenever it comes, and until then you can manage your different passions and your different activities separately, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, yeah, that's what it comes a lot from. One of the coping mechanism I use as a business owner in the system when I do presentation like this, to interview, when I do presentation or webinar, because I'm an introvert, I have a very strong coping system where I make into two different categories. Let's just put it that way, right? I have my business and I have myself, and we are not the same thing. My business is what is out there, and me, I'm still me. And so right now, I'm fine with having, these two categories of business and myself in the middle. And I feel, and because I feel the balance, I don't feel like one is taking over the other one. So I don't have this need to push or find something new. I know, so I really am sure at some point it will come, but as you say, I don't feel the need to really try, with force. It's going to come at some point.
Yeah, I can see that you have this faith and this belief, and that it's going to come naturally and at its own time, and I think it's a great inspiration for people that are struggling with their many passions. And what I hear from what you're saying is that you're putting yourself in the center, right? You're in the center of your passions, and so everything else is around, and so you don't have to fight or do it, from force it or make it happen. It's just going to happen because you're at the center. So everything else is gonna find its place around you. So I really like that. That's a really good option for people that have different passions and don't know how to manage them. I think it's a great way of managing that. But the thing is that it's not only the systems and the craniosacral therapy. I mean, right now that's what you're both active in. But when we spoke before, you told me that you had in the past, you've worked in different other businesses or other activities or things that you know how to do. And I'm just going to, quote a few of them. Maybe there are more, but from what you told me, you said you were a life coach. You have a certification as a life coach. You also have been a fitness trainer, an interior designer for gyms, sewing yourself your own clothings and pregnancy clothing. And I have a fun story to share on that. Sewing canopy for weddings, chuppah for Jewish weddings, needing your own head coverings, and also having a business in that. You started a business in that. So I'm like, wow, how can one person can have so many interests, so many competences? And you said something about having like a transversal pattern. There's something that comes back, and that this is what's helping you be so good in those different areas that seem so disconnected, but really there is a common point to that. Can you say more? What is the common point between everything that you've been doing, or the past?
Yeah. It actually took me a long time to find out what's the common ground in all these different businesses, and it comes down to one skill, which is I very, very easily find patterns and can design in 3D in my head. So anything that's a little bit of design work or finding, I can. Is so cryopsychotherapy, as you do it, is really finding within the body where are the knots and how to release them. And design clothes is obviously designing clothes, really creating the pattern from scratch. System, for me, system is a very creative activity. It's designing the system and the process. So it's both design and creating patterns. And obviously the gym design is, design. So all of these very different activities have, one skill set at the center. And I'm very blessed, honestly, to have a skill set. It's I first of all, it's useful in pretty much everything, and second of all, I really enjoy it. It's one of my things. If I don't feel, days I don't feel so good, my go-to is trying to do something creative.
Right.
So that's where and doing actually.
That's where you go. Wow. So it's so interesting.
I made jewelry.
Your what? Sorry?
I made jewelry at some point.
Oh, you made jewelry at some point. You're adding to the list. Oh wow, my God. So a lot of creativity, a lot of design. But what's really interesting in what you're saying is that it really connects to at some point I had a Born to Do discovery method, which was a method on how to discover your born to do. And the main thing in this method was finding the transversal theme of your life, like finding the things, the common denominator. Because as long as you are in this transversal theme or in this common denominator, you are in your born to do. So it could be expressed in different ways, like sewing or jewelry or designing a gym or clothing. But at the end, if it's connected to your a transversal theme, you're going to be happy and fulfilled and aligned. So it's so interesting that you discovered that, like, all the pieces of the puzzle, they're basically part of the same picture because it's part of design and creativity and patterns for you. So it's really interesting that you discovered that. That's really interesting. So we spoke about your professional career. We spoke about the countries that you lived in. We spoke about the fact that you are in Israel for 10 years. But this is, like I said, the Jewish Women Entrepreneurs Podcast, which means that we speak about the entrepreneurship journey, but we also speak about the Jewish aspect. And in this Jewish aspect, there is something that I'm not sure if everyone knows, but you were okay, talking about it. So I'm very interested to hear more about the fact that you converted to Judaism. So you were not born Jewish. You went through a process, and you decided to convert to Judaism. I think 13 years ago. Am I correct? Is that what you said?
Yes,
right.
13 years ago.
Right. So, and I asked you if you were okay to speak about that, because I know some people, don't feel comfortable, but you were okay. And I would love for you to tell us, what was this process? Like, first of all, how did you discover Judaism? how do you make that decision? What happened? Like, how do you decide to convert to Judaism?
Yeah. Well, first of all, Judaism I know about because, growing up in France, and I grew up in Créteil. So if you know a little bit, there is a huge Jewish community there. So I had friends in school, I had friends at university who were Jewish. So it was not brand new. I didn't grow up without knowing absolutely nothing about Judaism, but I still didn't was not so familiar with the laws and everything. So fast forward many years, I was already in New York, and I was living on the Upper West Side, which, as people might know, it's also a huge Jewish community there. I was working for the bank, and it's just thank God, had this series of events that just brought me to question Christianity, which is how I was brought up. And I realized that I don't believe in Christianity at the point where if someone asked me what religion I believe in, I couldn't answer. And the curiosity, I had something with that. I said, I do believe in God. There has to be a religion somewhere out there in the world that fits what I believe in. It can't be that I'm the first one really feeling what I feel or believing what I believe in. So my very, very first phase, and still something I apply now in business, is I did research. I bought many, many books on every religion I could find, and I just started reading and see if something would fit. And every time I was going to Judaism, it's like, oh, that fits. And reading a little bit further, another book on Judaism, it's like, oh, that really fits. And I came to a point where I said, okay, that's it. I need to convert. I believe in Judaism. I know it's very clear when you read about Judaism that you don't have to convert. You can be a very happy, 7 laws of Noah go and just live your life like that. But I wanted more. I didn't want to stop there. I really wanted to be, to live with people who believe exactly the same way I believed in. And I really wanted to follow the blueprint of the Torah for my life. I really wanted to. I was in a place where I was ready to just, erase the foundations and rebuild from new how to behave and everything that Judaism teaches. And why I came to the conclusion, okay, I have to convert. So I took the yellow pages and I searched for the phone number of a synagogues close to where I was living. And I was really blessed because the first rabbi I spoke to told me, I don't do conversion, but you should talk to this rabbi. He has a program, and be in touch with him. And that was the beginning. I mean, it was really an amazing program. It was, it's Agara Pratit. It's really Hashem, Hashem Shomer Hagir, who guards the Gerim, and I really felt that from the beginning because he sent me to the right program. I went through the program. I finished it. And I still have connection with the families who helped me along the way, took me home, got me on Shabbat meals and the Chagim, and it was really, I had such a good time. I had such good memories of the time, where I was going through the process because of the support of the community already. That it's, it was really beautiful.
Wow.
To experience that, people really being, and it's not so easy.
It's definitely not easy, and and some people don't have it so easy. And you're right to say that those families, it's really something special that you had a good experience in that. But when we were talking before, you said that it's a difficult process, and some converted people, which who are Jews now, but Jews with a conversion background, may feel more alone. And you were talking about, especially in Israel, not having family, maybe not having the initial circle of friends, or that, people that were either born Jewish or in Israel. So what do you say? What do you see that is really the challenge of people that went through a conversion process? And is it specifically in Israel, or do you think it's around the world?
I think it's around the world, but I think there is also a specific issues of Gerim who wants to live in Israel, which is having no support system at all. Like when you do your conversion, where in whichever country you do it, you usually have the support of the community, the support of your Rav. Hopefully, right? If you don't have that already in the country where you do the conversion, it can be also extremely hard. But usually you do have that support. But when you move to Israel after doing the conversion, you really end up alone. Unless you manage to find a community, and Israel is not a place for community per se, right? It's more a place of family values and family gathering. It's not the same as you have, in England, in the US, or in France, for that matter. So it is more difficult to really find a community, find a place where you're going to be accepted and where you're going to have, connection with people, to go for meals, to talk. So it is extremely, I found that it's much more complicated to move to Israel as a ger than the time I had to move in England, for instance, as a ger. It was extremely different experiences, and I didn't expect that. I was thinking, Israel is the homeland of the Jews, so I was really expecting to have an easier time moving here than moving to England, for instance.
Wow.
And I had the opposite experience. I felt and I had this idea of started a group for support, mainly for moral support for Gerim who want to come to Israel. And I started it about 2 years ago. I'm not always very involved because of all the other things I do. But this is really something that, if you talk about you're born to do, that's something I feel is my reborn to do. That when I became a Jew and moved to Israel, I think that, I found this passion where I want to help other Gerim make their life in Israel and don't feel the loneliness I had when I first moved here.
Wow. And is this, did you find that other people in the Facebook group were responding, were active? I mean, what did you find that other Gerim, other converted also felt the same way?
I found a little bit, but to be honest, I haven't been active enough as an owner of the group to really make it significant, but that's something I want to do. I was very surprised by the people who joined the group, right? There were some people I knew from working with them, and suddenly they show up in the group. I was like, oh, wow, I had no idea. So
Wow.
that was really, really interesting. That's something I found out is actually there are a lot of Kurds living in Israel. I'm not. We are really. If you start talking a little bit, and when I tell a little bit about my life, I always have. Oh, my mother did, or my father did. I am,
Wow.
my the friend of, like, my mother-in-law, whatever. I always have this thing. It's like there is a lot of Gerim living here, and I think because we have this experience of something else than Judaism, we do have some we have some we have a role to play in
Right.
bringing people to Israel, especially people who are already living out of Israel.
Wow. Okay, so you're seeing that as a way of giving support to the converted, but also as a mission to help Israel, or to be an ambassador of some kind, or to speak to people that are outside of Israel. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Wow. Yeah, that is a big one to do. Definitely big purpose. That is a big purpose. And exactly, and that would be my last question to you. But that is something that I really was interested in hearing from you is exactly because you have that experience both in the non-Jewish world, but not as a Jew in the non-Jewish world, but even as a non-Jew in the non-Jewish world, and also in the non-entrepreneurial world, in the corporate world. And now that you're working essentially with Jewish women entrepreneurs, and this is the name of our podcast, and you also know that I have a global network, where Jewish women entrepreneurs from all around the world meet once a month. And actually, we have a meetup this week. But my question is, and this is a question I get asked. I know I have my kind of answer, but I'm always interested to hear how other people see that. What do you say is specifically a characteristic, or how would you describe a specific characteristic of the Jewish women entrepreneur? What makes them specifically, like, is there a specific characteristic of the Jewish woman entrepreneur, or is it just religious identity and I'm a woman, or do you find that there are common characteristics or things that you find are more obvious in the Jewish women entrepreneur world that you didn't find in other worlds or that you didn't see before? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. And without thinking, the first word that came to mind is resilience. I think there is
Okay.
resilience in Jewish women who are entrepreneur, and you do need that. But I think despite the challenges and the setbacks and the imposter syndrome and every negative thing that can come on the road to entrepreneur, I think Jewish women really stand up and manage to overcome these obstacles in a very particular way. And I'm not sure I've seen that in other communities.
Interesting. Very interesting. Because I also have some parts of answers when I'm asked this question. Like, why have a global network only for Jewish women entrepreneurs? Like, what is so special about them? Are they different from other entrepreneurs? So I know we hear a lot about women entrepreneurs or feminine way of, being in business. That's something that's very trendy and people talk about. But when you add the layer of Jewish, people like, why, is a Jewish woman entrepreneur different than another woman entrepreneur? And I have an intuition it is, and I have my way of answering that, that there is something also very purpose driven, that there is something very ethical, that there is something like working for something bigger than yourself. I find that a lot working with other Jewish women entrepreneurs, but I like your answer. I like the resilience. I think you're right. I think this is probably also coming from the Jewish people's history, like something in our collective and conscious, that the resilience of the Jewish people and, us being a product of that. So yeah, that's really interesting. Wow, I can't believe we went actually 9 minutes beyond the regular time. I usually like to keep it half an hour, but it was so interesting, Aliza, to have this discussion with you and to discover all the things that you are doing, that you've done, and to see how you're basically with all those passions and this curiosity that you have with everything that you do or that you did. I think it's a great inspiration for people that have a lot of passions or that worked in different fields and don't know how to manage all that. I think that the way that you're managing this is very organic, very natural, very relaxed. There's no anxiety around this. This is who you are. You have different ways of expressing your creativity and your design. So thank you so much. That was really, really interesting. Thank you so much, Aliza. I also want to add that you can visit
Thank you.
Aliza's website, right, Aliza? Sorry?
Yes. Yeah, I was saying thank you very much for having me. But yes, you can visit my website, smartbizops.com. That's where I'm most of my time there. So that's
Right.
the best place to find me.
Exactly. And I'm also excited to invite you in our next meetup, not this one, but the next meetup of the Global Online Business Network, the Jewish Women Entrepreneurs Global Network. Will you have an in-depth presentation? So if you want to know more about Aliza's business in terms of systems and operations and processes, this is, I know I've worked with Aliza. She's been in my program as an expert, so definitely this is a big recommendation. Yes, really, if you need any systems in your business, then don't hesitate to reach out and to visit her website. Thank you so much, Aliza. I'm also going to wish everyone a happy new year. We forgot to say that we are the 1st of January, 2023. So thank you for launching the new year together with me. This is a great way to start the year. I'm wishing everyone a great year full of systems and operations and creativity and design and alignment and everything we can wish. And thank you very much. I'll see you in the next episode of the Jewish Women Entrepreneurs Podcast. Thank you, Aliza. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.